Okay, here we are. Let's try this again. Here we're live. I'm of course here with Ding Dong as always.
Good afternoon.
It might not be afternoon. You don't know what the time these people are watching this. It could be the morning. It could be fucking 2 a.m. after a strenuous masturbation session. They're just like sweaty and just logging on to a YouTube live. If that's the case, we got something very important to talk to you about today, and this is something that I see on a recurring basis with my 20 years as a boot camp instructor live in the field. I saw that one of the biggest issues that's holding people back is this idea of authority dependence. And very often, I'll have to warn people. On the third day of the program, it's typically a 3-day program. And on that third day, I'll see that they're still having some difficulty motivating themselves to take action under their own power. And I'll be like, look, man, this is the third day. After tonight, ain't gonna be no Jeffy here to push you any longer. So I need to know in my heart of hearts that you're going to be able to do this under your own power subsequently after this program ends. And, when I first started teaching, I was 26 years old, so literally 20 years ago now. And back then I would very frequently be coaching people who were much older than me, who were more successful financially than me, who were more accomplished in many ways, better, more well-traveled, et cetera, who just kind of were just a bit more accomplished. And in order to sort of deal with that, I leaned heavily on this being the boot camp. The program was called the boot camp. And it was meant to imply like a military connotation. Obviously, you're like a drill instructor yelling at you, putting you through your paces, breaking you down to build you back up. And it is all of those things. However, I would lean very heavily on this kind of drill instructor role. I called it Sergeant Asshole. And, a lot of people, they do need that foot in the ass, so to speak. They do that high degree of enthusiastic encouragement to take action, sometimes with a bit of, degradation thrown in. All right, punk ass, maggot, this, that, the next thing. Go, what are you doing? Go, go, go. Someone's physically shoving them to introduce themselves to people when they're paralyzed, petrified with fear. And look, some people respond well to that. In fact, a lot of people do. It can be useful to kind of shake you out of a torpor, especially if you are in like a state of anxiety, a high state of anxiety about introducing yourself to people. Because once you are in that emotional state, it can be very, very difficult for you to get yourself out of it, especially due to the unique characteristic of emotional episodes that they can hijack your RAS, they can prevent you from even processing information that would contradict that state. So I can sit there, I can tell you, look, it's fine, nothing bad's going to happen. What's the worst thing that can happen? You can intellectually understand all of that, but if you are in the grip of that emotional episode, that anxiety, you're not even going to be able to hear it. You're just not even going to be able to hear it. You'll hear the noises. You will literally hear. You will interpret the sound waves coming out of my mouth, but it won't make a damn lick of difference. So in those instances, yes, it can be useful to kind of put the proverbial foot in the ass, shove you into set. However, this is something I noticed about, 8 years ago, that this would foster this so-called authority dependence. And you would very often get people who they could do it when you're up in their grill and you're pushing them very, very hard to do so. But the moment you stop doing that, now they revert to type and they're incapable of taking action. So, how does one address this as an instructor? Because I really believe this, and I've said this before, authority dependence is probably the singular most important factor that robs you of your personal power, right? When you look to not just say an instructor or a coach or a mentor to tell you what needs to be done with yourself, and look, guidance is great, guidance is important. You don't want to be arrogant about your time. You don't want to. You want to value your time, so you look to somebody who's dedicated a lot more of their life to understanding these things, to learning how to impart this knowledge to other people, how to convert that knowledge into knowing in your being. But at the same time, sometimes this authority dependency can also be dependent on sort of handing your self-worth over to others. You're handing your self-worth over to these external reference, not just a mentor and an instructor, but the very people that you're speaking to. And then this, of course, relates to another kind of dependence, which is outcome dependence. So you have outcome dependence, authority dependence. You need these other people to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, what needs to be done with you. And basically what happens is you increasingly surrender your sense of self-worth to these external reference until you're completely at the mercy of the kind of the whims of the environment. So here's the deal. One thing that we really like, and so we were talking about this. We were talking about this earlier. In fact, here, let me switch these because this is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, looks like it.
Are we looking? We're looking away. Yeah, it's very important to look away. Okay, let me take me off.
Okay, we'll just be like,
and then I'll add me. There we go. Now we're facing the same direction. So,
okay.
So here's the thing. What's your take on this? Because we had a student last weekend who was kind of falling into that trap where he was able to do it if he was being pushed, but then if he wasn't being pushed, he was kind of reverting to type. And I'm sure that a lot of you watching can sympathize with this or empathize with this. When somebody's pushing me, I can go. But if I'm alone, if I'm going out alone, I simply can't find it within myself to move toward the perceived danger. Even though you intellectually know that that danger is kind of like arbitrarily related to reality. So what's your take on this?
Well, after having worked with tens of clients, I noticed like a very, very real pattern where if somebody is able to do it on their own and they show up on the accountability calls and they are doing it and going forward with it, they have massive progress. But we can't lift the weights for you. We can't do the reps for you. So if you're not able to do it on your own, something that it could be is just you don't know what to do. And we see that on program all the time where someone comes on, they haven't been going out because they don't know what to do, and then we kind of give them a very clear understanding of what gets results. And then as soon as they understand what to do, what the next step is, then they're on their way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest issues that prevents people from taking action is it just confusion. Right? So for me, when I'm running one of these live programs, and by the way, we got tons of these programs coming up. We're going to Scottsdale at the end of the month. We're going to MARDI GRAS for a 5-day program in New Orleans, February 25th through March 1st. We're going to be in Austin. We're going to be in New York. We're going to be all over the United States. You can go to jeffyinperson.com if you're interested in joining us on one of these programs. But one of my main issues or my main goals, like perhaps my primary goal on this program, is number one, giving clarity, because there's so much confusion as to the correct way to do these types of interactions, how to approach, how to introduce yourself, how to move things forward in a direction towards the direction you want to go in a smooth and cool and chill way while still, again, being somewhat aggressive about it. And there's just a lot of confusion. So we've all had this. And ask yourself, have you had this? You're in an interaction. You're like, oh, it's going well. It seems like it's going good. What do I do now? And you just kind of don't know where to take it. And you just sit there and just kind of keep talking and hope that it resolves itself somehow to your satisfaction. Like they say to you, hey, you know what? I'm really enjoying this interaction. How about we get out of here? Right? How often is that going to happen? Very rarely. On occasion it will if you go out a lot, but it's going to be very rare. So rare, in fact, that you certainly want to, let's put it this way, you don't want to build a strategy around it, right? My goal for a person who comes on the boot camp is they will never, ever again, for the rest of their life, be in a situation where they're thinking, oh, it's going good, what now? No. Instead, they'll be like, okay, it's going good. I'm at what could typically be called stage 2 of this type of interaction. In order to get to the next waypoint, step 3, whatever you want to call it, I need to get from step 2 to step 3. What are the behaviors I need to exhibit? What are the actions that I need to take to do that? Okay, let's do that. You'll never be lost or cast adrift. So I think, as you said, that in and of itself, having clarity about the conventions of these types of interactions, how they work, how you move it forward, and kind of demystifying it. Demystifying it will give you the confidence. Because if you want to have core confidence, right, true confidence, where it's not based on some situational authority. It's not based on whether they liked it or not. If you want to have that core confidence, it's not a fake it till you make it thing. Two things are required. Number one, you need to have a strong emotional leverage a strong commitment to achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. Okay, that could be in terms of a smaller part goal. I want to hook up with this individual tonight. That could be it, and perhaps more useful in the sense of a larger overarching purpose. I want to constantly be moving towards a charismatic vision for my life, where I am able to move freely through the world with ease, communicate clearly, communicate consciously, communicate exactly what I want to communicate, and not be in fear of how that's going to be received, not be tethered to this, again, these external reference, trying to judge whether what I'm doing is okay. It's like, I know what I'm doing is fine for some people, not for others. I'm for some, not for others. That's fine. Let's find out. Let's go find out. But whatever that is, I have an extremely strong commitment. Come hell or high water, I'm going to learn this. Right? For me, when I was first starting out, I had a series of bad breakups, and I was like, you know what? I need to learn this. I need to learn this, so I'm not just going to have to get lucky again with someone from work, which is what happened to me, like or from like my social circle. That's how I got into relationships previously. And then I felt like just lost, like basically at the mercy. I can't break up with them even if the relationship sucks, because what'll I do? I'll be cast adrift, hoping to get lucky again. And finally I got to a point after a breakup, I was like, enough. Enough. That's never going to happen again. I need to learn this. I need to learn these skills. I'm going to become a player. That's the way I put it. It wasn't super noble at the time, but ultimately it was about choice, right? That's why I did it, because I never want to experience this low again. I never want to experience this helplessness in relationship where I have to stay there out of scarcity or any of this nonsense, right? And so for me, I'd go out and people would sometimes I would try everything. I remember people would laugh at me at this one bar I went to, and I remember one time I walked by these girls and I heard them say, "Look, it's that guy. He's getting worse every week." I heard them pointing at me and saying this, like in terms of my demeanor, my garish attire. And I went home and I was just like, dude, what are you doing? You're making a fool of yourself. But it's like, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Keep being a fucking chode? Absolutely not. And I remember thinking, like, I don't care if this takes me down. If this takes me down, I'm going out with my fingers white knuckle wrapped around its fucking throat. That's how I'm going down. Right? So I had a strong level of commitment. So to get core confidence, you need a sense of commitment. And number two, you need a sense of control. And what do I mean by control? Like I said, a lot of these, like Eli said here, a lot of these clients, they come in, they're just confused. They don't feel like there's any control. I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk, and maybe it goes good, maybe it doesn't. No. On a boot camp, we're going to give you extreme clarity. We're going to make it simple. Not easy, but simple. Because we can make this complicated, we can make it extremely complicated, or we can break it down. And look, I've tried every single permutation of how to deliver this material over the course of a 3-day program. How much do I deliver? Back in the day, it has to be everything in the kitchen sink. We would meet 5 hours before the field work portion, and I would seminar for 5 hours, right? But then the problem is what? It's just too much information. And then you go out and it's like, oh, you're just kind of like paralyzed by all the information. Nowadays, it's like, okay, I have 20 years of teaching experience. I can distill it down to the most potent, most useful, most beneficial, most impactful techniques, most impactful insights for you to drill in field and make it as simple as possible. Because let's face it, ultimately, people go out and they just want to have fun. Everybody's bored. Give them something different to talk about, and then make it easy for them to go home with you and not feel guilty about it. And that part, make it easy, that's where the technique comes in. So number one, we want to give you extreme clarity on how to go about doing this in the most simple way possible. Now I didn't say easy, because we're fighting decades of inhibitions in many cases, right, that are going to be preventing you from using your energy in these ways, right? You're like, okay, this is potentially dangerous for me. So you got to understand, number one, the demands that are going to be put upon you by the types of results you want to have, how to navigate those interactions and those waypoints. Okay, great. Number two, develop awareness of how the inhibitions are preventing you from using your energies in that way. And I think that that's a huge thing that we see on boot camp all the time. Like, it's, for example, this last weekend I was in a couple weeks ago, I was in Atlanta, And you could see that this is a guy who was on my mentoring, and we had talked about these inhibitions, and intellectually he understood how these inhibitions manifest, how these so-called tension entanglements manifest from the intellect down through the body and prevent you from being able to take action. Intellectually he knew it. Intellectually he knew you need to use your face, voice, and body in dynamic ways to capture attention, especially in a high-energy environment. Intellectually he knew that. But it wasn't until we threw him in there into four-dimensional meat space, and he started saying these things in a low way, and he started really feeling the inhibitions grab hold, not just in some academic setting, but in the real world, seeing the disinterested reaction, not even like negative, just no, don't, uninterested. This doesn't work. How are the inhibitions interplaying with my whole communication system as I try to do these things? Okay, now you know very clearly, and you have awareness, and now you can start to that process of release. So I think that, what you said there, that's number one. You need clarity about what the hell's going on. And then that gives you that sense of control. And if you also have emotional leverage, that's where core confidence begins. And that's when you can stop relying on these external reference, whether it's the instructor, whether it's, to push you, whether it's, getting a good reaction from the people you approach, and you can actually start moving forward on your own. That's number one. I think the second one, and I want to hear what you have to say about this. I think the second big one, so you need clarity, but also you need to, let's put it a different way, inspiration. Because I think that a lot of people, they come onto these programs, and for them, doing this stuff has been a chore. It's been a slog through the mud, on the elbows in the mud, putting themselves through the fire of rigorous self-development and all this shit. They come on the program, and then they see, essentially, he and I are like idiots. And we're just like making dumb jokes on the level of like a 12-year-old.
Worse.
Well, worse. Like a really dumb, worse. Like a dumb 12-year-old.
Very destructive 12-year-old.
A destructive, dumb, and like perverted 12-year-old.
Borderline insane.
And we're just like, duh. And for us, it's just like a joke. It's like literally a joke.
I think the most powerful things for when the clients come on to actual live programs is, one, they see it's real. Because that guy in Atlanta, the one that came from the mentoring, as soon as he saw that it was real, he lit up and he kind of like came to life, and he was like, oh wow, I didn't believe it was like this. I mean, he kind of intellectually, we would tell him these stories, and he would kind of think, maybe they were a bit exaggerated, but when he saw that it was real, it gave him inspiration. And then two, when he saw how fun it was for us, like, because we have a huge smile on our face almost the whole entire time we're out.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because too, they see, very often you see me on these, and I crack jokes on these videos and stuff, but like a lot of times it's like conveying information. Okay, here's a breakdown, and it's kind of a little bit more serious. I will almost never have not have a smile on my face when I'm interacting in field. Not because I'm putting it on to garner to create a reaction, because I'm making myself enjoy it. Because what's the number one rule of social interaction? Whatever you feel, they feel. So you want to put yourself in the state they want to be in, which isn't anxious, which isn't trepidation, which isn't shut down. It's outgoing, it's fun, it's carefree, it's light. There's a lightness to it. It's not elbows in the mud. It's not putting yourself through the fire. It's enjoying life. It's collaborating. It's not a competitive vibe when you go up. It's a collaborative vibe. I'm sharing my experience with you, and I'm inviting you. I'm inviting you to meet me in the middle. And then I'm going to introduce an invitation that's likely to be accepted.
I remember the last program that we had in San Francisco, one of the clients said he wanted more clarity, and then we gave him more clarity, and he said, all right, great, this is the time that I can go out. I want this. His goal was to kind of make this like the gym, where he could spend like an hour or two out of his day and know exactly what to do to get results, kind of like he does in the gym. And we said, there's a period where it probably will be like the gym, where you know what to do, you don't want to do it, but you make yourself do it, and then maybe you kind of enjoy it. For us, it's not like the gym at all. This is the time that we get to mess around. This is our like vacation from it all. Like the gym is more like, it can be enjoyable, but that's more hard work to get a result. When we're out, it's not like the gym at all. It's all fun. It's all 100% like we just enjoy being there. We enjoy the just doing. We're not even waiting till the end necessarily. The whole thing is great for us.
Yeah, so I think, let me read a comment here. Agent Smith, number 666, says, I think it boils down to relying on the instructor's secondhand experiences to verify that an action is safe or effective. When on your own, you may not have even secondhand experiences to justify an action. I think that's precisely what we're getting at here. They see. So again, we had this client on program in Atlanta, and he had heard us tell these stories about the weekend on the mentoring and stuff like that, and he would kind of sit there with this bemused sort of expression on his face, and I would ask Eli, I'm like, does he think we're lying about this stuff? He's like, no, like, or does he think we're just like douchebags or what? Like, it's like, no, I think he maybe thinks they're a bit exaggerated. And then again, on the first side of program, we roll in and we take over the environment. We kind of have this whole hub of young people like circling around our booth. We're pulling him in. He's doing some crazy shit on one of them with a vibrator. He leaves with like it, and while the friends are like cheering, I'm sitting next to him like clapping, delighted as he does this on this twerking young lady, and they then leave together, and everyone's like, yay, and the students just sitting there like, oh, it is real. Oh, all of these things that they've been saying on these calls, it's actually very real. And not only, I think that the funniest part with that was like, since it was on the first approach of the first night, it wasn't like, oh, these things just happen sometimes for them. It's like, no, they just roll in and it just happens immediately. Now, of course, that's not the case every single night. But I think that for that student, it was like, oh, damn, these guys just do this on the reg. And it seems like they're just having a lot of fun with it. So, again, in his mind, now he's like, okay, I see. It's not like, okay, I'm here to do work and I'm here to do this. Like, I'm screwing around, and then I implement what I know about the technique. And then it just seems to kind of happen. Because one thing you got to remember is, as the great philosopher from the 20th century, Cyndi Lauper, said, girls just want to have fun. So again, everyone has these biological imperatives that they want to, intimacy and all this stuff, but not with some fucking chode, not with some dude who like shuffles up with like a stiff demeanor and mutters some like inaudible gibberish and then begins asking them a series of logical questions. Like that, again, you have to have an understanding. You got to have clarity about what works, and I'd say more importantly, clarity about what doesn't work. And not just clarity, a visceral understanding of what happens when you try to do it like that. Because like I said, you can intellectually understand that doesn't work. Oh yeah, they told me that doesn't work. But then you go out and you do that, you default to that because of the inhibitions you have around expressing yourself in the way that actually works, right? So there's only two rules that I have on boot camp, okay? And this is designed to help eliminate that whole authority dependence. Number one, never be careful. Number two, go too far, right? Never be careful, go too far. NBC GTF. Never be careful, go too far. This doesn't mean you're going to be like doing intentional damage to yourself or damage to other people. What it means is that I want you to step into your power. I want you to use your energies in a way that you never have before.
We always on program talk about our fantasy students, and we're yet to see anybody really live up to.
Yeah, for example, so on Sunday there was like this birthday party at the venue, and these guys are kind of shuffling up and being like, "So, are you guys having a birthday? Oh, birthday today?" I'm like, dude. And then what do you tell them? You're like, just roll up and
let's go birthday.
Yeah, if they had just literally, if they had just rolled up to the thing, been like, birthday, like some like obnoxious, loud thing, that would have been superior. That would have worked better than going. But again, they're in this headspace. I need to be careful. Oh, that would be too much. That would be too much to go up and exclaim some nonsense. That's too much, right? No. The people at this birthday, they certainly wouldn't like that. They want to have a nice sedate time with their peer group that they see all the time. They certainly wouldn't want an injection of some fun into their afternoon. It was like some brunch situation. Oh heavens, no! That I could be met with an awkward glance. It's like, well, guess what? If you're met with an awkward glance, they ain't the one. And there's plenty that will be the one. And they're going to be like, oh, delightful. Oh, delightful. Welcome. And then again, if you know how to move it forward from there, it's child's play. So again, this is what I really want you to take away from this. Never be careful. Go too far. Like I said, one of the major focuses of my infield teachings over the past couple years now has been reducing that phenomenon of authority dependence, where you are going to be able to do it after the program. You are going to be able to go out under your own power, and now you're going to be able to take action. Because number one, you have clarity about what it takes to actually make it work. You're like, okay, if I do these things, generally it has a tendency to work pretty well if I execute properly. And then some that don't like it, it's simply a matter of randomness. It's not some inherent failing on my part as a human being. It's like, I'm for some, not for others. So you have that clarity. And then number two, you really get that sort of inspiration that it's light. It's fun, right? And where do you get that? By seeing us and myself, Eli, the rest of the crew, how we're just like literally, it's like lucid dreaming for us. We can do anything. You can literally do anything. Imagine a situation where you can do anything with no repercussions whatsoever.
Yeah, legally you're allowed to say anything.
Well, let's not get him in trouble here. But they said on the video I could say anything. I said the N-word. Like, no, dude. Okay. Yeah. So there's certain restrictions may apply. So yeah. Anyway, but yeah, you can pretty much. I mean, again, like what you're thinking is like, I can't go up and yell "Happy Birthday." I can't go up and yell "birthday" at like, for you, there's like a certain level of voice that's acceptable. Right? Anything beyond that? Oh no, I'm going to be perceived as a crazy person. It'll be shut down with extreme prejudice. It's like, no. You need to see it for yourself. So again, number one, you need that clarity about technique. Number two, you need permission to be free, and you get that by witnessing, by the inspiration. Because again, that's the main thing I want to provide on boot camp. I want to provide inspiration that it's real, that we do this stuff on the regular. We're just regular guys, and we just do this stuff all the time. These stories you hear us tell are not some crazy story of the week. It's like, okay, just another thing that we did, and you can do it too. And you see that lane for yourself. Number two, we are there to push you. We're there to encourage. I'm not there to, be the drill sergeant necessarily, but we're going to give you guidance. We're going to encourage you to take action. We're going to give you those gentle pushes. And then number three, we're there to give you very, very detailed feedback, very, very constructive and actionable, descriptive feedback based on my 20 years of doing this and observing all the different sticking points that come into play. And there aren't that many, really. There's probably about 60. But we're going to give you detailed feedback on those, and that very descriptive feedback that makes that change and growth available to you. So, like I said, I got dates pretty much scheduled out almost every single weekend, all through the United States through the end of 2022. Like the big ones coming up are Scottsdale, Mardi Gras. Also, I was encouraged to put up a program outside of the United States for those European friends of ours and others who cannot make it into the United States for these health events that are taking place. And as such, I put a Playa del Carmen, Mexico date on the schedule. All of these dates you can learn more about if you want to discuss some more details and kind of figure out if this is a good fit for you. Go to jeffyinperson.com. You can set up a call, a little 5-10 minute call with me and my team, and we can tell you what it's all about. I'd love to have you on one of these programs. It will likely be the transformative experience of your adult life. All right? jeffyinperson.com. We're going to be logging off for today. I got another Hank Moody video coming up. Probably going to release tomorrow. So if you've been enjoying those reaction videos, we got them coming up for you. We got them queued up. So be ready for that. And I will see you next time. Peace.